Hi, everybody, and welcome back to what we've been calling the Blessed Mess podcast so far. Some new things are going to be happening. There's a lot of stuff in the wind, some changes. From this podcast and the next one to come, it will be called Calling Eve instead, which is it's going to be some fun changes, mostly geared towards women and relationships, family, all of that stuff, the good stuff. So we're in March already, which I'm not even sure how that happened. It felt like New Year's was just yesterday, but the first 2 months of this year have passed, come and gone. And no, this is the first podcast. I don't know. I have no excuse. I have absolutely no excuse whatsoever to why I have not gotten my butt in gear and done more than just voiceover work in the studio. When the year started, I was really happy because I achieved my goal that I had last year. I'm usually the kind of person that I hate New Year's resolutions. Out of principle, I just refuse to make them because I'm like, okay, that's just one more thing that makes you feel crappy about yourself because you fail. But last year I felt, well, I guess it would be the New Year's leading into 2013, when our son Elliot was really sick with leukemia, and there was just a bunch of stuff going on. I myself was at 105 kilos almost, or 103, I think. I say 103, but I think it was a little bit more. At that point, I was in a lot of pain personally. So I decided that, my son is fighting for his life, fighting with cancer, and it would be shameful for me not to throw my own life away, not to even just to sort of wallow in what had just happened to my body, how I'd gained all of that weight, both during pregnancy and depression and things like that came to follow. But just the fact that he was sick and I started gaining more weight, it just felt horrible because it felt like he's fighting for his life. I need to be fighting for mine too. So I broke the habit of not doing New Year's resolutions, and I promised myself that during 2013, until the next New Year's Eve, I was going to lose 30 kilos, which would put me back down at 73, which was where I was when I first got pregnant with Elliot. I changed my life pretty radically, and I actually did it. I actually lost the 30 kilos, and I'm still going. I still have a little bit of ways to go to where I feel that I'm completely in tune with myself and feeling healthy and stuff like that. But I'm really liking just feeling better, not having to deal with the same physical issues that I had before, hip pains, joint pains. I mean, I felt like I was, 93, not 33. Anyway, so that year I did a New Year's resolution, which is something I obviously don't usually do. And this year I didn't let it become a habit. I'm still not doing New Year's resolutions, but instead this year I took the advice of one of my favorite speakers and authors, John Eldredge, and I asked God what he thought should be my theme for this year. So now we're 2 months in, and the theme that I felt that I got, that I thought was really, really important for me to work on, was relationship. So 2014 for me is going to be a year of relationship. Thinking about that, it's really easy to go, okay, well, that's an external thing. This means I need to call this person, that person, and be more social, book more, play dates, or, well, I mean, grown-up play dates aren't so much sniffing glue and put, painting stuff. It's more coffee and crumpets or whatever. But But instead of just seeing it as an external thing, I think where I have gone so far is internal. What is my relational baggage? And how does that affect my relationships with other people? If I really do want to focus on relationships, and I don't mean quality, I mean not I don't mean quantity, I mean quality. If I really want to focus on good and lasting relationships with people, how do I do that? And why in the past have things not worked out? What is my relational baggage? The issues that I have that I bring to a relationship and that can hinder me and the other person, and in some instances as well, just be really hurtful. I think it's really important to go back and to go into yourself when it comes to things like that. In general, I think we all look at our lives and make agreements. Things happen to us and we say, yeah, that's really true. And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's good stuff. And those things kind of tend to turn into self-fulfilling prophecies, if you may. I mean, I know when I was little, before my grandpa passed away, he told my mom at some point, oh, Jessie, she's going to be able to, nothing can stop her wherever she's going to be able to do whatever she wants. And that was something that I heard, and it really meant a lot to me. And I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can be a powerhouse. See, that'd be a good agreement. But then there are other instances where, someone says something negative about you, and a lot of times those are the things that we actually take to heart, and we let them shape us. Like, for me, it's one typical thing was, oh, Jessie, you never finish stuff, you can't finish things. And I've taken that to heart and been like, yeah, I'm terrible at finishing things that I start. And I think when we make agreements like that with ourselves, it stops us from growing, because we take it as truth. And it doesn't have to be truth. It might just be somebody's opinion. And maybe at that instance, yeah, it was, slightly accurate, but it doesn't mean that it's something that is your destiny, Another thing for me, I think, was in middle school, I had a specific friend that would always, we were like besties, and then would always ditch me when somebody cooler came along. And that might seem like, oh, she was 10 to 12, whatever. It's, just a kid, yada, yada. But that's been something that has really, really shaped me and shaped how I deal with relationships. And it's important for me to be able to look back and say, okay, that was an agreement that I made with myself that, oh, I must not be worth sticking to. I must be somebody that people get tired of and they leave as soon as something better comes along. And being aware in myself that somewhere in the back of my mind, I tend to think that that's what's going to happen. A lot of times when we make agreements like that, that is our Achilles heel. It's what, when warfare happens, because warfare will happen around your Achilles heel. If there's an arrow flying that's aimed to hurt you or to cause conflict, to try to break you or try to just bend you to get you off your course, self-doubt, or, messing up relationships, then that's going to happen where your painful agreements have happened. Because we're constantly interpreting these the things that are said around us, our relationships, what people say, what people do, we're constantly in a state of interpreting our surroundings. And it's so important to realize that this is what's going on, because if we don't, we're completely oblivious to why we act the way we do, or why we feel the way we do. Feelings may feel real, and I love I love what my husband says. He's like, well, if you're feeling it, then you're feeling it. Feelings are real, but they might not always, they might not always be coming from a true place. If I'm hurt that somebody didn't call me back, I might be thinking, oh, they're probably tired of me, or I must have said something. That might not be true at all, but that was my interpretation of it. I think with me, because of my issues with being scared of being left, or things like that, how it's hindered me in my relating to friends and to people around me has been a very I better leave before they leave me kind of thing, which has led to a lot of hurt in close friendships and things like that, where I've kind of become standoffish because I'm anticipating that person leaving. This is something that I really have to work on, and I think most of us, everybody doesn't have the same story, but we all have things that we need to work on in ourselves before we can relate to other people. Well, not before. I'm not saying please become a hermit before you've dealt with yourself, because that's not healthy and gets lonely. But it's really important to pray about your friendships and realize that because relationship is a holy thing, God is relationship. God is God the Father, God the Son, Holy Spirit. God is three. So he's constantly in relationship with himself. And that's why relationship is such a holy, holy thing. And that's why it's so important for us to treat our relationships as something precious. And because they are so precious and because they are holy, that's where a lot of warfare focuses. So pray for your relationships, pray for your friendships. Make sure to realize that is something that might be under siege. But also remember that any relationship with another human being is a relationship that's staged in a fallen world. We're not perfect. Nobody is perfect other than God. And, several years ago, I had a friend who she'd gone through a really, really, really rough life, and had a tendency to hook onto people and think that they would complete her in friendships. And then when that person would fall and would fail to be perfect, because we're not, she would be devastated, and she would feel hurt, and she would feel not just disappointed, she'd feel betrayed. It went to the point where I think she was very new in her faith, and after a while she just said, you know what, no, I don't need this church, I don't need friends in church, I and my relationship to God, I can do this on my own. And that is dangerous, and that is not of God. We need people around us because we are created in the image of God. God is relationship. Relations and friendships are vital to us as human beings and with our walk with God, because in every one of us is created in the image of God, but we don't all bear the same traits. So I think that's why relationship is so important, because we help each other to see a bigger picture. We help each other to see God's face a little bit clearer. But when holy moly, my neighbor's dogs are going bonkers. It's like, okay, I could go back and re-record this, but I don't know when they're going to stop. And they're also building across the street, and I don't know when drilling is going to start. So I'm just going to keep going. No, but I think that it's it's really important to remember that any relationship that we're in is staged in a fallen world, fallen people. None of us are perfect, and therefore never try to substitute that hole in our hearts that can only be filled by God with another person, another human being. I am very well aware of the fact that I need girlfriends around me. I could try to ask my husband, who is an awesome man, to be everything, to be my everything. And I think at some point in my life I did. And that's just never going to happen. That's too much pressure to put on one individual. And it's not healthy at all. It's important to surround yourself with people, but to know that your only fulfillment in relation is going to come from God. And that's the only place where we will truly find everything that we need. And that's not saying that we do not need relationships with people around us, because the people are important because they help us to see get a deeper and more colorful view of the reflection of God in our lives. But just to remember to pray about your relationships, pray about your friendships, and also just remember where everything's at, you know? God is God. People are people. Surprise. If you put all your stock in a person, you're going to get hurt. You know, if you put your stock in God, well, then you've got the creator of the universe, and he's pretty kick-ass at everything he ever does. So I'd say that's your best bet, seriously. Anyway, with that, I just want to say welcome to 2014. We've lost 2 months, but things will be going good. Just take care of your friends, take care of each other, and I'll see you guys soon.